Thank you. All right, Government Operations, Military Affairs is back at 1:30, continuing the discussions in and around the Bennington 1 election issue. Today, we asked some folks from the municipalities that experienced the issue. And we brought these folks in to just have a conversation with us about what they experienced when they discovered the problem and just get an understanding of what they lived sort of in the moment, boots on the ground. So that's kind of my goal for the next 45 minutes to an hour. We have a couple of different representative folks from clerk's offices and the Board of Civil Authority. And I would like to please start with Julie Weber. But Julie, before we get going with you, just for everyone who's on right now, I wanted to go around the table real quick and just introduce ourselves to you. So you can put some faces to some names. And I guess I'll start with myself, Representative Matt Byron, Libby Vergennes, Chair of the committee. I represent the city of Vergennes and the towns of Ferrisburgh, Panton, Waltham, Addison, and a portion of Haven.
Representative Lisa Hango, Franklin 5 on the northwestern border with Canada, on the towns of Highgate, Franklin, Berkshire, and Richford.
I'm Lucy Boyden. I represent Cambridge and Waterville, just looking on 3.
Hi, Representative Sandy Pinsnall from Dorset, and I represent Danby, Mount Tabor, Dorset, Peru, and Land Grove.
Hi, Michael Morgan, represent the Grand Isle Chittenden District, includes the 5 Grand Isle County towns of Alberg, Isle Lamont, North Hero, Grand Isle, South Hero, and the western corner of Milton, which is where I reside.
Bob Hooper, the north end of Burlington.
B.L. Coppin, Windsor 2, Cavendish, Weathersfield, and Baltimore.
Mary Catherine Stone, Burlington.
Jay Hooper, Brookfield, Braintree, Randolph, Granville, and Roxbury.
Shay Waters, Evans, Charlotte, and Heinsberg.
And we also have an absence today, Representative Kate Nugent, South Burlington. She's just not with us in the moment. But with that, I just want to bring on Julie Weber and start with her. Thank you for being willing to come in, Julie. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. If you want to turn the camera on, go for it. If not, we're fine with audio.
I would, well, can I just talk this way without looking?
Oh, most certainly. Yeah, whatever you're
Thank you.
comfortable with.
Okay. Good. Do you want me to start now?
Yeah, please feel free. And again, we just wanted to just have a conversation with you about how this scenario was discovered and transpired.
Okay. So I'm going to start from the beginning. So in January April 22, we got an email from the state that there was a bill passed for redistricting. So I started, me and one of my assistants started, and we did, doing the redistricting because we were all of Pownell, and then we went Bennington 1, Bennington 5. So we did the map. So from like coming down Route 7 from Bennington to Pownell, we did that. And then we have to go up Barber's Pond Road. Sorry, I talk with my hands also. We went up Barber's Pond Road, and then we had to go to South Stream Road, which is the cutoff according to the redistricting paperwork and maps. So when we did it, I didn't realize it that when we went up Barber's Pond, I included everybody on Barber's Pond Road into the District 5. So that's how I ended up with our original lines that we did. So that, like I said, that was in 22. I sent an email in April of 22 to this, back to the state, said, hopefully we did this correctly. And then at the end of April, I received another email that we had, our redistricting was complete. And then in the paper, May 28th of 22, you know, it was before the primaries type thing, and there was a little verbiage that redistricting was done. So I said, okay, so then in June, on June 1st, 2022, I sent a courtesy letter to all of the residents of all the roads over there from Route 7, Barber's Pond, back to South Stream. So it counted like Middle Pownell Road, Jackson Cross Road, a whole bunch of roads. So I sent out letters to everybody to let them know that they were in a new district and that if they had any questions or concerns to contact me. And I never heard anything until Mr. Busso came in after this past November election 2 days later to tell me that there was an error on my redistricting. So I'm like, sorry.
No problem. I just have a quick question for you. I want to go back to April of 2022. And you said that you were contacting a state office. Do you remember specifically which state office it was?
Oh, sorry, it was the election office.
Just the elections office itself.
Yes.
Thank you. And so you were corresponding with them that you had gone out essentially into the field or worked off your maps and established the boundaries. You sent them documentation of that and they certified it.
Yep, I got an email back from, I think it was Tammy Sink, that on April 27th, that my redistricting was complete. So I said, okay, must be we done all right then, because I didn't have any changes or anything until, like I said, to this past November when Mr. Busa had come in and showed me an email that a resident had received the wrong ballot. And like, to my surprise was that nobody said anything. You know what I mean? Not one, you know, even on the election day, that nobody questioned whether they had the wrong ballot or, you know, who their candidates were or anything. So I'm like, okay.
How long have you been a clerk?
I had started out as assistant clerk in 2014, and then I was, the former town clerk was sick in 19, so I did the whole year as assistant clerk by myself, and then I became town clerk and went to school, and I'm still here today.
All right, so this is the 2020 census into 2022 reapportionment was your first experience with doing it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So then Mr. Busa flagged the issue. And what was your experience with that and discovery?
I went down in meltdown mode because I'm like, oh my God, there's like 60 to 80 people and everybody's like staying calm. And I'm like, no, it just like, no, it's not right. And then of course we, with the recount or not recount. Yes, we ended up doing recount. So in the meantime, before I knew, he told me he was thinking about doing it, but nothing, because like I say, it was just 2 days after the election. So I'm like, okay, with the error, I automatically scheduled a BCA meeting to like, okay, we need to correct this because I'm thinking there's like 40 to 80 people and everybody keeps telling me to calm down. It's okay. And I'm like, no, I don't think so, because I was worried that, we were going to have to do the whole entire election all over again. And that, I'm like, oh, great. The other towns are going to be upset because we're going to have to do this all over again. And then did I mess up the District 5 for the Bennington people? And everybody's like, no, just stay calm. it'll work out. And I'm thinking, okay. So,
I can see that being a difficult conversation to not, to not be stressed out over. So I understand where you're coming from, Julie. I can imagine that it was a significant burden on you. So once you identified it and the recount occurred,
so I had to leave the recount because I went to the recount. We went up at 8 a.m, but because I had scheduled the BCA meeting and I didn't want to cancel it because of the urgency. So I had left my assistants there. And then I came down to the office and we held our meeting. We went through the whole entire checklist. And then I mailed out another letter to everybody to tell them that there was an error on November 19th, that there was an error in that you guys had been, placed in the wrong district, and that I would keep them informed going forward of what was gonna happen.
we have a question in here, Representative Waters Evans.
Hi, I'm wondering, when you said so you called the BCA meeting and you did the recount and you sent a letter to the voters after you went through the checklist again. Was there, or is there like a protocol that you follow or a procedure that was in place already to give you guidance on what to do should this happen? Or, should there be a question about an election?
No, I told you, I was in meltdown and I'm like, I just wanted to try to correct it. And Mr. Busa did have some paperwork of, that it was like the BCA's, responsibility to do this and this. And I did contact the state and, stay contact with the BCA and stuff. And I felt horrible because I had to, tell the candidates that, we may have an issue. But I just, like I said, I just wanted to let people know that there was a mistake made, and I'm one of a person that if I know I done something wrong or incorrectly, I'm generally the first one to correct it and stuff. So like I said, I just wanted to let the people know because it was all over the paper that we might have to do a revote, recount, but then in the meantime, like nobody came to me to say anything. So I just wanted to correct it to the best.
No, understand. And at this point, and this is just like a question I'm going to ask, understanding that, in our towns and communities, the clerks very often have like a very firm sense of the pulse. What's the sentiment of your voters right now with this situation?
Not one voter, nobody said anything to me. I didn't even know that there was a Pownell 45 until I had watched the meeting the other day. So I'm like, okay, but nobody's, like I said, has said anything to me.
So a lot of the information that we were going over the other day, that was all brand new news to you?
For the 45, I mean, I've been in contact with like the state, to make sure, like my people are in the correct districts and stuff like that, but.
Sure. But that's sort of the information that was being sort of like put in front of us as to the public itself. That was all new information to you.
Yes, because I'm like, what is I think I had to ask them, like, has anybody in the office heard of the Pownell 45? And they're all like, no, what is it? I went, I don't know, I think it's a petition from my understanding.
Okay. Well, thank you, Julie. If you can just hang out with us for a little bit, we're gonna chat with some of the other folks who are on. Or actually, Representative, do you have a question?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Julie, this is Representative Sandy Pincinel. Question, do you know of those people that got the wrong ballot, how many of those actually voted?
Yes.
Do you tell us that amount?
So in the district, so, let me get my glasses on. So in our BCA minutes that we did on November 18th, I had done errors in the voting district number 5, and I had put a blue mark next to them. So out of the, I think there was 56 of them.
That's the number. Yeah, 56 is the number we're working off of.
So actually, I originally on my minute or my notes and stuff, there was actually 44 that voted. But it was pointed out that one of them, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say their full name or just initial.
Just say initials, please.
Okay. The first one is A and his last name begins with a C. He actually voted in District 5 and he should remain in 5. But we did him as a letter as he was in the wrong district, and that was just pointed out to me. Yeah, within the last 2 days. So actually, so the 43 did vote in the district that were originally in 5.
That should have been one.
And then in the errors in District 1, 8 of the 14 voted in District 1 when they should have been in District 5.
So 8 of 14, Bennington won. But they should have voted in Bennington 5.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
What was the 14, Julie? I lost you at that.
Oh, that was the total, I think.
Total of what?
That voted in 1 that should have been in 5.
Yes,
There were 14 that voted in Bennington 1, but should have voted in Bennington 5. So what were the 8?
Yeah.
That's how many that actually voted.
So there were 14 ballots received, thank you, or
Yeah.
14 ballots sent. Thank you.
6 blank votes or.
They didn't get returned.
Right.
So, Julie, could you, whatever sheet you're working on with that spread there, do you mind emailing that to our committee assistants so we can take a look at it?
okay, it's gonna take me a minute because I'm a double amputee, so it's gonna take me a minute to get up and
I
go to.
don't need it today. You get that.
Oh, okay.
Like later today, tomorrow.
Nope,
it's
yep, I
all
can do
good.
it when I'm done.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Julie.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Coffin.
Yes, Julie, I just want to make clear, get clarification. So you said there were 44 on the list or 43 on the list that voted, they did actually vote though in District 5, they should have just voted in 1.
Correct.
Was that 44 or 43?
43.
It was, I originally had mentioned to the attorney and then the state that there was 44, but then one was mentioned that the AC gentleman should have, he would have been the 44th one, so that's why it's down to 43 of the 56.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions at the moment for Julie? No? All right, Julie, thank you. Yeah, just feel free to mute yourself and if you don't mind hanging out for a little bit, just in case we got a follow-up question for you.
Okay,
That'd be appreciated.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, up next, I'd like to talk to Lori Shepherd, the town clerk of Stamford. You there, Lori? Can you hear us?
I
There
guess
we
I have
go.
to learn how to unmute.
You know, we're all a little rusty on the Zoom coming out of COVID.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm the representative district clerk. This is a new role for me. And so I wanted to join in case you had questions of me or if I could contribute in any way.
Yeah, no, and no, thank you for joining us. And, you know, we're just, the whole purpose of us reaching out to you folks right now is for us to hear what your experience was, town by town, clerk by clerk, role by role, with the discovery of this issue and, you know, the weeks and months after the fact. So that's really what we're looking for right now is just your perspective.
Okay. I did not know that there was a problem at all until Bruce Booza brought it to my attention. He emailed and asked if our Board of a Civil Authority could meet and discuss the error. Our board did meet in November and they talked about it. All the information on the exact number of voters and whatnot was not available at the time. The majority of our board felt that Woodford, Searsburg, Stamford, Reedsboro all had accurate checklists and we did our election properly, and they felt that it would be a burden to make all of the 5 towns within the district have to do a revote. They felt the dynamics would be completely different, that we have a lot of snowbirds that would be in Florida. You know, at the time when we thought this would be reelected, we would have hunters that would be unavailable. We just thought the voters that turned out for the November election, it would not be an accurate representation if this went to a revote in all the towns. The majority of our BCA felt that the 43 people, I guess it would be 56 people who received the wrong ballot should be given the opportunity to vote correctly. So the majority of our board felt only the 56 people should re-vote. We did have a member on our board who felt very strongly that out of the 56 people, only 43 voted. So the 43 who made the effort to vote should only be the circle of people who were given an opportunity to vote on a correct ballot. Otherwise, you are invalidating the votes of all the people who, in good faith, went out and vote that day. There has been a lot of talk in Stamford about how it was going to be fixed and a fair way to fix it. And I don't know as I have an answer for you, but it is a concern of a lot of people that have talked to me in town, wondering how this would all be worked out. So I don't know. It's a little hard because the candidate who is challenging won in our 4 small towns, and is going against a candidate who resides in Pownell, where the revote would take place. And everybody was very much against only allowing Pownell as a whole to revote because they felt it would not be a very fair representation. That it should be either all of the 5 towns or just limited to the voters who are unable to vote on a proper ballot the first time around. So that's a lot of the questions and concerns that people have brought to my attention. As a new representative district clerk, I had no idea that there was a problem, and I probably could have reached out and helped, but it was a new role for me, and my town as a whole was all in the same district. I had not experienced, having to divide a town by streets and voters and make sure that everything was accurate. And without a strong BCA, I feel really bad for Julie, who had to take that task on. It's a mistake any of us could have made.
You said you're new at the role, Lori. How long have you had the position?
I've been a town clerk since 2009. But a representative district clerk just changed for me in the 2022 redistricting.
Does it makes her the largest town?
Yes. Oh, gotcha,
Right.
gotcha.
Right,
Gotcha,
we were in with a different town and,
That's what my question pertained.
gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense now. Thank you. That covered your question, if there's anything else?
No, that's actually a segue into my question. It's not really a question, but for people who might be listening or folks who only have one town in their district, could you explain what a representative district clerk is? What do you do that's different from a regular town clerk?
so when all the votes are cast, I have to go in as a representative district clerk and combine any write-in votes and votes from all the towns together into one unified vote for the entire district, so that it's not just the town of Stamford voting individually or the town of Reedsboro, it's all our votes combined into the one district that counts. So after the election, I have a canvassing committee where we sit down and go through, and somebody who might have voted for Robert Evans or Bob Evans, they're two separate votes. But if it's really for the same candidate, I have to merge those votes together. Maybe somebody voted for Bobby Evans. That would have to be also merged into the same vote so that I would name one candidate the winner. At the end of the canvassing committee. And so I'm able to see the votes from all the 5 different towns and have to merge everything together. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. I just really wanted folks to understand that you were not just here speaking about being a town clerk in Stamford, that you were representative of the whole district, the district as a whole. Thank
Right.
you.
Yep.
Does anyone else have anything for Lori at the moment? All right, Lori, thank you for that. If you don't mind, muting and hanging out in case we have any follow-up questions, that would be appreciated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And up next, Reedsboro Board of Civil Authority, Nathan Kurz, am I pronouncing that correctly?
That is correct.
Okay,
Yes.
welcome. And kind of just the same sort of like overview, we're just asking the same sort of scenario question out of all 3 of you.
Sure. I guess I'm just I'm local to Reedsboro. I can tell you what the town of Reedsboro and how we're viewing the situation. So I'm a select board member from the town of Reedsboro. We're in the Bennington 1 district. We had a meeting of the Board of Civil Authority. Bruce Busa lives in Reedsboro and is a member of that Board of Civil Authority. So he contacted our clerk and asked if we could hold the meeting. As a justice of the peace, he's not allowed to call the meeting. So I called the meeting of the Board of Civil Authority at his request, and we had a pleasant meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, he explained to us what was happening. I think some of us had, seen some newspaper articles, but he had a much better inside view of how this was going to play out. So he then recused himself and left the meeting, and the rest of the Board of the Civil Authority discussed what we thought would be a good solution from the point of view of Reedsboro. So I think the main thing that we agreed on as a board is that this is an error and the error should be corrected. So we should have high standards for our elections. It's not fair to voters if their votes don't count. We shouldn't just, we as the town of Reedsboro would not like it to simply say, oh, we goofed up, but the results stand. That said, since the error only occurred in Pownell, as the town of Stamford clerk was saying, we don't feel it makes sense to do a revote of the entire district. The voters that we had and showed up, correctly, did things correctly. And if we had a revote of the entire district, we know that, statistically, the turnout is going to be so much less. It was a contentious presidential election. We had high turnout. If we have, a revote of the entire thing, we'd be having probably, a quarter of the original voters deciding the entire election. So our opinion as a board was that it should be corrected in some form, but that correction should be targeted as much as possible at either just the voters who were in the wrong districts or just the town of Pownell. The second part of that decision is that, while we, want to have sort of everyone's vote be counted, part of the reason is just that it's a burden on our small town to conduct a special election. So partly it's our doubt that having an election with a greatly reduced turnout would actually improve the fairness. But we also estimated that the special election might cost our town about $2,000 for the mailing costs, for the cost of having the high school gym open, for other parts. And while that's not a giant cost, we're a small town and doing everything we can to cut our budget as much as we can. And I guess what I'd like to mention, is, part of the reasons that we're struggling to meet our budget this year is we're dealing as a town with a very high unexpected bill from the state of Vermont. So VTrans is in the process of replacing a bridge in our town. And we were told several years ago, pre-COVID, that it was estimated the town would need to pay $105,000 to move our water line from the old bridge to the new bridge. Understandable, the water line goes across the bridge. It was a water line that was replaced not that long ago, so it kind of felt silly to pay money for replacing a water line that didn't replacement. But we agreed to do that at that point, and we agreed knowing it was only an estimate. So they did the rebid on the bridge, and the bridge as a whole cost many times what it originally did, and the cost to our town jumped up from $105,000 to $653,000. So suddenly our town is being asked to pay a bill that's greater than half of our town budget. VTrans is doing what they can and offering us extended payment terms, but still the fact that we're trying to pay something which is more than half of our town budget, even spread out over 6 years, that's more than we were planning for the 1 year cost. And you may have seen the news that the federal government is paying $18 million towards the cost of this bridge. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be reducing the town of Reedsboro's cost, and we're struggling to figure out, how we're going to manage to make these regular payments to the state of Vermont. So if there was any way on your part to put some of that federal money to reduce the burden of the town of Reedsboro, we'd be very appreciative. But I guess back to the main topic. So the town of Reedsboro says, yes, we'd love for you to try to correct this error. Like I think the other towns, other than that the town of Stamford was saying, we'd like that to be as concentrated of a fix as you can so it doesn't burden us further. We'll obviously support whatever conclusion you come to. If you want us to have a revote, we'll do it and do it as well as we can. But at the same time, we think it'd be fairest not to throw away the votes of people who legally cast their ballots and were not able to participate in the revote.
Gotcha. No. Elections issue aside, I'm really sorry to hear you're experiencing that infrastructure.
Yeah, no, it's a
scenario. That's
a big budget surprise for us.
Right. What's your town's population?
I always get confused about the official population and the voter count, but I think 750 is our residents.
Resident population. So you got 600 and loose change water pipe bill.
Yeah, so this is a water main so our water supply is a reservoir, it's surface water. Our tank is on a hill on the opposite side. So this is the water main that runs across the Bridge 25 on Route 100. And so apparently the reason that this cost increased so much is the original plan had the bridge being replaced lane by lane, where we could move the water line from, they destroy one lane of the bridge, move the water line over to the other side, we would move it once. The new plan is that a temporary bridge is being put in, so we're doing double the work of moving the water line. We're moving it from the old bridge to the new bridge, then throwing away that new line we just made after the temporary bridge is taken out and putting it back on the original bridge. So that sort of doubles the cost. The rest of the cost is just the increase since COVID of inflation and what the rebid has cost. I think it's worth noting that the original bid for this bridge is they held a bid in, I fail to recall the exact date, but let's call it 2019. They turned it down because they thought it was too high. That original bid for the entire bridge, I think, was $8.5 million. The new final total is $36 million. So we're getting $18 million from the federal government, but the actual, had we done this 5 years ago, it would have cost less than the amount we're getting from the grant, and we would have avoided this. So it seems like the cost inflation is very out of control, even locally, for the small amount of that portion that we're paying.
My community is looking at a major infrastructure project that involves a brand new bridge and a secondary road around a dense municipality. And we experienced the same kind of sticker shock when the ballparks were re-quoted after the fact. So I can empathize with that sticker shock for sure. Now, I guess we do have some more testimony before we go to a different bucket of subject matter. Before the committee goes up to the floor at 3:00. So we do have someone else coming in about 20 minutes. So I just wanted to see if you had anything to add election wise to what we're talking about now. We're still in very early stages of the conversation as a committee, but anything else to share or questions for us?
No, I think that the part that I might mention that was kind of brought up is that there was a redistricting, I fail to recall the exact, maybe 2 years ago. So we switched from being part of a Wyndham district to being part of a Bennington district. We were very happy with our previous representative. I think as a town, we could be very happy with either of the two proposed new representatives. The part that really excites us is we'd love to have someone who knows that Reedsboro exists and is willing to represent us. So as a town, we're not that concerned actually which one. Both of the candidates are better than our current representation has never visited Reedsboro. We don't know, doesn't see, because we were put into his district at the last minute, never really considered us part of his district. So we're excited that we will have a representative who will be representing us, and we're happy with either, and we can go either way and however you choose to decide this.
Understood. Does anyone at the table have any questions for Nathan? Anything else for either Julie or Lori from the table? No. Well, all right. I really appreciate you finding the time last minute. I know we kind of just fired some requests for testimony out yesterday, so I want to thank you very much for being responsive and willing to come in. I don't want to say we're going to reach back out to you, but there's a strong possibility we could in the future. Should you think of anything else that you think is relevant to this conversation and process, do not be shy.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to our point of view.
Yes, no, thank you very much. And with that committee, we have the Department of State's attorneys and sheriffs coming in at 2:30. We do have a very short window with them, so please be promptly back here. And I'm actually going to go troll the hallways and see if I can find the two of them and drag them in a little bit early.